Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from wealthandhealthmastery.com, and in today's video we are going to do a full stock analysis of AMD stock. We're going to see, should we buy, hold or sell the stock? Is the stock expensive or is it good to buy the stock at this price point? AMD just released its financial reports 2 days ago and we're going to review those reports in this video. So let's get started. The first thing is, if you look at the financial results of AMD, their revenue grew by 9% year over year. Means from last year to this year there is an increase of 9% in the revenue. The revenue is about $5.8 billion for Q2 of 2024. So that is an impressive number, but one important thing is the revenue has not increased by that much. I was expecting a double-digit growth at least, because companies like Nvidia are reporting a double-digit growth, and also the companies like Microsoft, Facebook, their revenue increases around 22% or 17%. So compared to those companies, AMD revenue growth is not by that much. Their data center revenue has grown up by 115%, which is very impressive. Their client revenue is also up by 49%, which is another very impressive revenue. It is currently sitting at 1.5 billion. So their data center revenue increased and their client revenue increased, but the gaming revenue and embedded revenue saw a decline. Gaming revenue went down by almost 60% and embedded revenue went down by 41% year over year, and their non-GAAP gross margin is 53%, which is up by 3 points. Now, what is the difference between GAAP and non-GAAP? So in layman's term, understand that GAAP is basically when accounting is done as per the American standards, and the reason we do it so you can compare the financial results of one company with the financial results of the other company, because they're following the same American standards here. The non-GAAP is without the standards. There's nothing wrong with that either, but it will not have some depreciation accounted, income tax, etc. accounted. So that is considered as non-GAAP, which is without the American accounting standards. Now let's take a look at their earnings here. So if I go over to the PDF document, this is their quarterly report, and if you scroll down here, these are the GAAP quarterly financial results. You can see here revenue has increased from $5.3 billion to $5.8 billion. There is a 9% increase over the year over year, and there is a 7% increase by quarter over the quarter. Means if you compare this quarter with the previous quarter, there is a 7% increase, but if you compare the revenue from 1 year ago, then there is a 9% increase. Now the other important thing is their gross profit has increased by 17%, which is good. Their gross margin is up by 3 points. Their operating expenses is increased by 5%. Their operating income has gone up by 1400%. This is a great figure. I definitely like this number. Is 1400% jump from $20 million to $269 million. So that is their operating income. Operating margin is up by 5 points. The net income is up by 881%. That is another impressive figure. It went up from $27 million to $265 million, and their diluted earnings per share increased from 2 cents to 0.16, which is 16 cents. That is another increase by 700%. So looking at these results, AMD is not a bad stock. I would definitely say that, because their net income has gone up, their gross margins have gone up, their operating income has gone up. So all these things have gone up, which is an impressive number, and their revenues have also gone up by 9%. That is not such an impressive figure, to be honest with you. Now the other important thing, we're going to take a look at what are some of the shortcomings for the AMD stock. What are the reasons to sell AMD stocks? So AMD is going to have competition from Nvidia, has competition from Intel, has competition from ARM. So the growing competition is one of the concerns for the AMD stock. The macroeconomic conditions around the world is another challenge for the AMD stock, because majority of the revenue comes from outside the United States. So if there is any currency fluctuations or if there is any changes in the macroeconomic conditions around the world, that is definitely going to affect AMD stock. So these are a couple of reasons where you can think of to sell AMD stock. Now let's talk about them in the detail. So you can see here AMD is suffering from a challenging macroeconomic environment along with the persistent inflation, which has forced the US Federal Reserve not to cut interest rates year to date. Now, if Federal Reserves do not cut the interest rates, what's going to happen? It's going to make the borrowing of money even harder for small to big businesses. that is one reason the macroeconomic environment does not look good for AMD. Moreover, there is a weakness in the gaming and embedded businesses remain a headwind for AMD's near-term prospects. And we have already seen that their embedded revenue as well as their gaming revenue saw a decline in the second quarter of 2024. For second quarter 2024, the embedded and the gaming segment revenues are expected to decline by a significant double-digit percentage year over year, and that is exactly what we have seen in the financial report of this quarter. Sequentially, embedded segment revenues are expected to be flat, while the gaming segment revenues are expected to decline by a significant double-digit percentage. And that's exactly what we have seen, that their gaming revenue is going to have a decline, and that's exactly what has happened. And another important thing is their competition from Intel. In the traditional computing market, which still generates a chunk of the revenue, AMD is up against Intel's strong market position. Intel is very strong leader in these processors, and they have a strong hold of the market. With Intel systems so well entrenched, there is an obvious preference for system integrators to choose Intel processors over AMD, and that is going to affect AMD revenue. In the past, AMD was forced to resort to penetration pricing, which severely impacted the profitability of the company. Now that is getting into higher range segment. It is facing very stiff competition from Intel. So the competition from Intel is another concern for AMD. AMD faces significant competition from NVIDIA in the GPU market. AMD has had relatively greater success in the mobile segment, and its current product lineup indicates that the focus will continue. However, competition in the mobile segment is likely to accelerate with more ARM-based device coming onto the market. So the competition from Intel is a concern, GPUs, NVIDIA is a concern. Then the other one is the ARMs, because those are the chips that are being used in Samsung and other phones. AMD faces significant custom concentration from Sony and Microsoft. So the customer revenue comes from two big companies. One is Sony and the other one is Microsoft. And consequently, loss of any of these customers is anticipated to massively hurt the top line. Top line is their revenue. So if there is anything goes wrong with these two customers, it is going to hugely impact the AMD stock. So they put the eggs in one basket kind of situation here. So that is another concern for AMD. AMD drives a significant proportion of its revenues from outside the United States. So the conditions outside the United States are going to affect AMD stock also. Things like tensions between China and US can be a concern for AMD. The subjecting to the company exchange rate volatility can be another concern for AMD. So these are some of the concerns for AMD. So the major concern is the increased competition from Intel, NVIDIA, and ARMs. Then we have is the macroeconomic environment is not suitable for AMD at the moment. Their gaming revenue has gone down, their embedded revenue has gone down. So here are some concerns. But the quarterly report looks good to me. The revenue did increase by 9%, but their net income has gone up very significantly. Now, is this a good stock to buy at the moment? Now we are going to take a look at their PE ratios to decide if this stock is an expensive stock, or should we make an entry into the stock or wait for the stock to go down. So for that, I'm going to compare the PE ratios of the industry with the PE ratio of the AMD stock. So currently we are on the investing.com and I'm at the AMD page here, and the PE ratio is at 218.46, whereas the industry PE ratio is 73.93. So there is almost 3 times the industry ratio, and that is not a good figure I was hoping for. I was looking, if it was a cheap stock to buy, then I would have made an entry into the AMD stock, but currently the stock is overpriced for me, and I'm definitely not going to make an entry into the stock at the moment. If the stock goes down, definitely I can think about adding it to my portfolio, but at this price point, not at the moment, because it is very high compared to the industry standards. See, price to earnings ratio for NVIDIA is also high. I'm not saying it's not, but look at their revenue growth. If I see that kind of revenue growth with AMD, 100% I would have thought about it. But currently the revenue growth was not impressive at all. That is what I think. The price to sales ratio is good. It is comparatively less than the industry standard, so that's a good number. But PE ratio is very high. It's 3 times the industry standards, and because of that, I'm going to be staying away from AMD until it goes down. So that is what my recommendation is going for you. Now you tell me, what do you think about this AMD stock? Do you think it's a buy, hold or sell situation? Do let me know in the comment sections, and also please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any video from the channel, and also do like the video. I'm going to see you tomorrow with another stock video, so stay tuned for that, and thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye, take care.